Pretty big L for Zack Snyder and Netflix here. Obviously not necessarily Zack Snyder specifically, but encompassing his work. Netflix is being sued over cancelling a Rebel Moon video game contract. Yeah, pretty major turn of events, actually, and not the kind of headlines Netflix or Zack Snyder would want on the lead up to their releasing of those movies. So, yeah, really interesting turn of events. Hit subscribe if you're new here, folks. Turn the bell notifications on. Let's dive into this, shall we? So, Netflix has been hit with a lawsuit for axing a game development contract based on Zack Snyder's widely anticipated Rebel Moon franchise. So, what's the ins and outs of it, right? So, there was a filing yesterday in federal court. Evil Genius Games claims it was working hand in hand with the streamer to put together a tabletop role-playing game that was intended to be released in conjunction with the first Rebel Moon film set for a Christmas release. So they were just working together, we're making this game as a tabletop RPG, and done. No, see you later. So there was months of nothing, but there was positive collaboration. It all came crashing down, apparently. Nevertheless, just weeks after the work was finalised and turned over to Netflix, Netflix did a complete about-face and accused plaintiff of breaching the agreement's confidentiality provisions and Netflix's trust by allegedly releasing confidential Rebel Moon content at a trade show and then disclosing unapproved artwork for the Rebel Moon game to retailers, the filing says, of the suddenly terminated licensing deal in May this year. So that is really quite interesting. Genuinely. They're doing this thing. They're working together. Finalised. Chuck it over to Netflix. So they don't say anything, apparently. Now, this is all alleged, right? Netflix doesn't contact them. Netflix waits for Evil Genius Games to turn stuff over. And then they launch their sort of negative interactions with everyone. Quite bizarre. So Evil Genius insists that they had permission from the streamer in March to show some artwork at this year's Game Manufacturers Association exposition to create some industry buzz about the project. That's actually really standard, so I don't, I struggle to think that they wouldn't have been able to do that, because you have to show something. Like, it's really standard. You are going to show something to someone. Now, the plaintiffs emphasis that two Netflix staffers even helped distribute the materials to retailers at the show. It'll be interesting to see how far this goes, because it kind of sounds a little bit cut and dry. not gonna lie. Now, the breach of contract from LA's Kibler, Fowler and Cave LLC seeks unspecified damages. While mentioned in the document, Zack Snyder is not named as a defendant in the complaint. He's not gonna be, right? And it's an L for everyone involved, quite frankly, just because of the fact that, it's an L for Zack Snyder, should I say, simply for the fact that, he's gonna have to release this, this movie with a lawsuit hanging over his head. These are not they're just not the headlines you want by any stretch of the imagination. You're just not gonna want them. Like, that's not the kind of headlines you want on the lead up to a movie release. So Netflix has not responded to a request for comment on the lawsuit. If and when the streamer does, deadline, we'll chuck an update here. But here's what statement it is, right? So before everything went south on this arrangement, Evil Genius claims it did its job and delivered a 228-page world Bible that expanded on Snyder's vision for the Rebel Moon universe. Now that's interesting, because that would probably, if this game was to come out, right? I'm going to play devil's advocate, but if this game was to come out, people would read that and go, wow, that's amazing, we love what they've done, Zack Snyder's so amazing. And actually it was all, well, in this situation, it was all Evil Genius that did at least the World Bible. So that's quite interesting. Now, the company also asserts that they handed over a 430-page player's guide and a 337-page game master's guide. But again, you've got to ask yourself, you'd think the fact that they apparently, I think they handed this over in March or something like that, and then May, it was all, March and May? So yeah, they had permission from the streamer in March. So March they did this, but then they got binned off. I think it was May that this said. So what? Yeah, deal in May. So that the timeline doesn't make any sense. So March, a whole 2 months passes by from this convention. 2 months passes by, ladies and gents, and then after everything's handed in, that's when Netflix terminates it. That doesn't make sense to me. I'm not going to lie. That doesn't make sense to me at all. So apparently that all occurred, even though the initial script for Snyder's film was missing background information vital to the story as a whole and to the world. The lawsuit states, to fill that void, Evil Genius says it's supplied all the missing pieces along with a cohesive backstory for the entire Rebel Moon franchise. Oh my god, that's going to annoy so many people. So many people are going to be watching this. Zack Snyder fans, they're going to be like, well, no, Zack Snyder knows exactly what he's doing. Okay, I don't shoot the messenger, alright? I'm just telling you what Evil Genius said. Apparently, there was no cohesive backstory. And background information wasn't there. So that's funny. But the lawsuit says, it became clear that Netflix was simply using the alleged breach and termination to hijack Evil Genius's intellectual property and prevent Evil Genius from releasing the game. That's bloody interesting. So the CEO of Evil Genius released a statement, right? And said the following: our aim is to ensure that our team is recognised for their fantastic work and that we can release this game for millions of tabletop RPG enthusiasts to enjoy. It's disheartening to see Netflix backpedal on content that was jointly showcased and had received their prior consent. We urge our supporters to contact Netflix and Zack Snyder to push for the release of this game. And this is... I'm going to assume this is Evil Genius' CEO. It doesn't actually say. It just says credit Evil Genius, courtesy of Evil Genius. Sure, whatever. You'd think this... I'm going to assume this is the CEO, but who knows. So Evil Genius Games is best known for its Everyday Heroes gaming platform. The company has licenses on such films as The Crow, Escape from New York, Highlander, Kong Skull Island, Total Recall, Rambo, Pacific Rim, Universal Soldier. So pretty good licenses, actually. Look, the timeline doesn't make sense to me. In March, you've got this, exhibit, this showcase to kind of put stuff out in, and then 2 months later, once things are handed in, that's when you shit can it. Yeah, I'm gonna click X the doubt on that. It does actually sound like, yeah, it does sound like there's some legitimacy to it, because that timeline doesn't make sense to me. But love to hear your thoughts. Let me know down below. Cheers, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Take care. Bye bye now.